So welcome, our beloved brother Daryl. We so appreciate your consistent leadership and your solidarity. And as always at SETC, we begin all things by acknowledging our creator. We acknowledge the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation, all those whose bones lay at the bottom of the transatlantic that said freedom or death. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Daryl, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Victor. My name is Daryl Brown. I'm the head of Eastern Canada. I'm an associate client relationship manager for Genesis Capital Management. And Genesis is a sustainable and impact-focused investment firm. We have offices in Vancouver and Toronto. I'm based in Toronto, Ontario. And my goal, my objective is to expand our footprint. It's to interact with people, organizations, to help them find a path and chart a path when it comes to how to allocate their capital and make an impact when it comes to their investments. So I've worked for a number of years in the investment landscape. I'm a CFA charter holder, which means that I've done extensive training in analysis of companies, big and small, to really try and understand how they operate, what they need to succeed and do well, and not just do well, but also do good. That's a huge part of the mandate, and something that I'm really hoping to keep progressing going forward.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for all that context. And more importantly, the good work that you're doing. There's so many folks in the capital allocation landscape and fund managers that don't understand that difference between doing well and doing good and that distinction. So I appreciate you for your candor and your authenticity. So my next question, what inspires you about your work? What has you curious, or what keeps you up at nights?
I think the curiosity comes from, bridging a gap between, how I grew up and how I viewed the world, and how, our institutions are really set up to support people. And really, it doesn't feel like they're very well set up to support people. I think the other aspect of it is trying to figure out how we can mobilize and how we can support corporations, big and small, to do what they're set up to do, but again, support people, support our environment, support society at large, and really incorporate those different aspects, those different metrics when we think about capital allocation. Because right now it's a very narrow view, I think, of how we think about the demand for capital, the supply of capital, where it's coming from, and really trying to find a nice match there. So to be clear, there's a big part of my role and my job and the job that we do at Genesis that is focused on investment management for clients with a traditional investment management approach. But there's a spectrum, and for many of our clients, sustainability is of huge importance. The environment is hugely important. Climate change and impact are hugely important aspects to what we do and how we go about managing client money.
Incredible, incredible. So that's a perfect segue. Are there any challenges or barriers in your work? And what are some of the approaches you and your team take to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
Definitely investor education, financial literacy, number one. And that's the case with people who are thinking about their money, not just in the traditional landscape, but then trying to layer in their other values and priorities when it comes to their money. They've done an incredible job of gathering wealth or capital, and some people want to allocate it in a way that is meaningful for them. And they may not be aware of exactly how to do that. And so for me, I think that's a huge barrier. It's a huge challenge to approach people and say, hey, there's this that you know of and that's around, but there's also this over here, which may be a fantastic opportunity for you. So really understanding the basics about capital, equity capital, debt capital, rates of return, flow of funds, flow of capital, like how does that work? How does it get recycled in a system? All of those aspects, I think, are challenges for people when it comes to just regular finance, but then layering in priorities when it comes to the environment, when it comes to climate change, when it comes to diversity and inclusion. Trying to put all of that together gets very confusing, I think, for some people. So financial literacy and education, getting in front of people, talking to them, walking them through in terms that they can understand in a voice that is understandable to them. That's one of the ways that I personally go about it, is really trying to be inclusive when it comes to sort of how I approach people. And inclusivity meaning I'm talking in a voice that they're understanding. I'm not using terms that are flying over their head.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. But we're about to use some terminology right now. How do you feel about the future of sustainable finance or impact investing in Canada? Are you optimistic? Are you hopeful? Are you pessimistic?
I'm hugely optimistic. And I think one of the things that's driving that optimism is we're coming out of a phase where terms like impact and sustainability have had this very narrow focus. They've been defined by an industry for people. And the pushback is huge. And right now we're in a phase where that pushback has meant that some of the assumptions have been challenged, but also we're coming out with new definitions, new terms, phrases, lines of thinking when it comes to how to invest sustainably, how to invest with impact. It doesn't have to be a one-dimensional approach. People can take a look at their values, the things that are important to them and their family and their community, and we can craft a solution that is tailored for them and that has a more specific and a more crafted impact when it comes to their values and their priorities. So that's the thing that I'm hugely optimistic about. I think one of the things that's a challenge nowadays is that, yes, while there's so many options for people, the challenge is there's so many options for people, and people can get very overwhelmed and very confused when it comes to trying to figure out what's right for them. So that's something that I'm hopeful that, as the conversation progresses, people will feel like they've got a space, that they've got a zone to be able to ask questions and understand that there is a right solution for them. It doesn't have to be the same solution that, other people are moving forward with when it comes to allocating their capital.
Shay, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for your leadership. So my second last question, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
I think investing with intentionality is really the key thing. I don't want to be in a position, and nor do I put myself in a position where I'm directing people and dictating what their values and their priorities are. That's not really what I believe in. But what I do believe in is providing investor education and financial literacy to help people invest with intention, with thoughtfulness, and understanding that there are options for them. It doesn't have to be a one-directional approach. So really, it's helping to invest with intention. And even that, just knowing that that can be a thing. It doesn't have to be invest to make money at all costs. It can be to invest with intention and with the desire to hopefully have some type of impact.
Ashay. So, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and viewers?
Create space, ask questions, I think is one of the key things that I put out there. I think there's a lot of amazing things that are going on in an industry and surrounding industries that are not held in well regard. I'll be the first to admit that financial services and investing is met with a lot of skepticism, a lot of cynicism, and it is not that way in all segments of the landscape. There are people, there are institutions that are taking the foundations of traditional finance and then really trying to layer on different ideas and different approaches when it comes to allocating capital and when it comes to making an impact.
That's absolutely beautiful. My beloved brother, we so appreciate your grace, compassion, mercy, empathy, brilliance, and authenticity, and clear visionary leadership that you bring to your work and to this ecosystem. And we're just honored and humbled to be able to share your work with our listeners and viewers. And as always at CETC, we close the way we began by acknowledging our creator, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors. We acknowledge all our elders, the community stalwarts, whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Victor. Thank you.